European Commission has to say.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Impressive talk by Gabriel, really. It's very good because I can build on it. It's very good. I think all the figures are there and the challenges for Europe are there. So it's a pleasure to be here for the 40 years of IDAT. Thank you for associating the Commission to this event. I think the worst thing we can do in terms of policy, mainly at the European scale, is to mimic what's happening worldwide and mimic it without looking at the details and looking at our objectives, our assets, our values, our specificities, and try just to copy what's happening. I think on innovation policies in general, including the maximizing the benefits, or the policies that try to maximize the benefits of new technologies, where there was a trend to try to mimic what's happening elsewhere. I mean, Silicon Valley was the reference to some extent that not only in Europe, but worldwide, people were trying to mimic. I think that's the worst thing we could do. And it's good and to look around and see what's happening, see whether there are models that could be applied in Europe. But adapting models and looking at our specificities is essential to be able to succeed. I will start with this because I do think that Europe has assets, in digital in particular, and I'll try to show you this with some figures. And I do think that, indeed, the game in digital is not over. And we know that it's not over. Whenever we have seen in the past, in the last 40 years, since IDAT started, whenever we've seen that, things are starting to stabilize and there seem to be dominance of technology, dominance of actors, things change very quickly. And I keep on telling my colleagues that those who tell you don't go in this direction, the others will do it, don't believe them, because I've heard this several times before. There's no acquis in this business because it's about innovation, it's about human creativity. There's no acquis, and opportunities are still ahead of us, and they're huge. And therefore, I start with this. Of course, we can look around, see what's happening, but I will just brief you about what we're doing in terms of strategy and tactics in Europe in order to make sure that our economy and our citizens make the best out of digital transformation. That will continue. Indeed, the trends are there. I think artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, data are the big trends that we see today that are driving the digital transformation of our economy and society. And they're materializing, so it's not only hype. We see them start, having influence on investments, having influence on innovations, having influence on business growth, and on bringing solutions to our societal challenges. The trends are there, and I do think Europe has assets. If you look at the Internet of Things, it's about bringing digital into all types of physical artifacts. It's about digitization of all products, all types of products, and it's about digitization of services. It's about blurring the boundaries between products and services. It's about new business models. And we're very good in Europe at building complex digital systems. We're very good still at embedding digital in all types of products and services. We do produce, in terms of value, more than a third of embedded software that goes into our cars, that goes into our trains, that goes into our planes, that goes into our factories. We have leadership in areas like safety critical systems. We know how to put digital in complex artifacts, make them reliable, make them work, make them accessible, make them easy to function by our citizens, by businesses, etc. We do produce today, when it comes to embedded digital, we do produce more than half of the electronics that goes in cars. This is produced in Europe. The world leaders, the two first leaders in car electronics are in Europe in terms of production. This is the components. We are very good in software that goes, business software that goes into our businesses and that on which businesses run around the world. When it comes to embedding technology into products, we're good. The Internet of Things is a huge opportunity for us. The digitization of all sectors of the economy is a huge opportunity for Europe. On artificial intelligence, I know that the press is about, new developments in artificial intelligence, and we rarely speak of what's happening in Europe. With just a reminder that we do produce more than a third of the world industrial robots. And we do that because we're able to put more intelligence, more cognitive capabilities into robots today. This is produced in Europe. We have more than 50% of professional robots also endowed with cognitive capabilities. It goes with what I was said before when it comes to putting intelligence into smarter products, smarter artifacts. We're very good. These are our big assets. We need to continue building on these assets. And the digitization of all economic sector, that's the new wave of innovation. This is where Europe can make a difference. We also have very good research labs. We have very good educational systems. There is no reason to think that the digital transformation will happen without Europe. We will be a major contributor to make this happen. We have weaknesses, of course. And our weaknesses, Gabriel made a very, very good analysis of these. When we talk about Europe, we tend to think Europe as one block. Today, in digital, Europe is not one block still. We don't have a digital single market, and that's why our first action with the new commission that came in 2.5 years ago, or almost 3 years ago now, first action was a digital single market. It's one of the 10 priorities of the Collège on all policy priorities, building a digital single market, so that we hunt and pack all together. We've put proposals on the table that goes from copyright regimes, harmonization across Europe, to a new telecommunication code that would be favorable to investments, hopefully. These are on the table. We have progressed on these legislations that we put on the table for telecom. We progressed a bit. We did not progress as much as we wanted. We put them on the table, but there's a co-decision process between European Parliament and the Council of Member States. There is still a negotiation. We progressed on roaming. We ended roaming in June, so it's done. We progressed on online commerce, but there are very important files where we're still staggering, and we hope that in the next 6 months, after the call of our heads of states that met on digital at the end of September to accelerate the decision process, that we will be finalizing most of the laws that we have put on the table on the digital single market in the next 6 months or before mid-2018, be it the telecommunication code, be it the audiovisual framework, be it on copyright. We hope to be able to finalize this quickly. This is extremely important to make Europe a success for investors, so that we attract more investment, so that businesses that grow in one country can look at the whole market as one market, where the growth, where that attracts investments. It's not the same for an SME to look at the French market or to look at the European market when it comes to attracting investment, and we know this. I don't need to preach you about that. It's very, very important to start with this. We're there, but we're not limiting ourselves to just the single market as a market and the regulations that go with it, or the legislative frameworks that go with it. We also announced in April last year a big package to prepare our industry to the digital transformation, a package that was developed with industry and the member states, where we looked at how to invest in innovation and where to invest. The biggest problem we see in the uptake of these digital technologies to embed digital technology in all types of product, processes, and services. The big issue is with non-tech industries, traditional industries, and SMEs to a large extent. And we have put on the table measures to make sure that we get the technology, we make it accessible, make innovations accessible to all businesses all across Europe. And that's the European model. Our assets are the diversity of our economic sectors. Our assets are the diversity of the member states. And by bringing technology to every business closer, we can create the wave of innovation, and we're developing this, and we see it. I come back tell you what's happening on this. We create the wave of innovation that will enable us all together to make the best out of digital transformation, to grow business, create jobs, and address the needs of our citizens. So bringing the technology to every business, anywhere, in any sector in Europe, a primary goal of our digitization strategy launched in April 2016. We've put on the table 500 million euros from the EU, a small amount that is triggering today 10 times more investments in the member states. And the concrete measure is building up our competence centers, reinforcing them, building new competence centers, digital competence centers, at a working distance from any business all across Europe, so that businesses can come, test, experiment, and get access to the technology, and at the same time, get access to investment. This is the scheme that we're developing today, so that once you test, experiment with the technology, you can also have access to the investments that are needed to innovate. That's a major initiative we launched. At the same time, we're working with the industry and public-private partnerships with member states to make sure that we do cover all the technology chain in Europe. Coming back to computing, we initiated a big initiative on high-performance computing, 5 billion euros of investment together with member states and industry. Come back to the computing circle by building up all the technology chain. We announced a big initiative also on 5G, the 5G action plan. We announced a big initiative on electronics, exactly on electronics and embedded software to reinforce our strength in these areas, 5 billion euros of co-investment with industry and the member states. And we see the effects, they're coming. We see investments coming back into these areas that are hard areas where Europe has to be present in order to be able to compete on a global scale. We have a partnership on big data. Altogether, if we look at the investments in the 5 years that we're drawing into public-private partnerships, starting in 2014-15 until 20, we have accounted around 50 billion euros of common investments. Of course, this can be done if we group our efforts together. Any one member state or any company or any region by its own will have an investment that is, I would say, compatible with its means. But by putting all together, we get the investments that are needed, or co-investments that are needed, from the public side to attract the private side, and that could be game changers. This is our line. It's just starting, 2015, 2020. We're in 2 years now from the implementation of these partnerships, but we see also already the effect on attracting private investment to Europe. We're not standing only on research innovation. We're also looking at co-investment in areas where it's hard to get public money, hard to get private investments. See also how we can facilitate the investment with public support, with the European Fund for Strategic Investments. But also we looked at the state aid framework, and we clarified what could be done together in projects of common European interest. And we see the electronics industry now coming with a large project of common European interest to support first production capacities in new technologies. All this is part of our framework to encourage the uptake and the diffusion of digital innovations across all economic sectors across Europe. That's our digitization package. In addition, in September, just last month, 6 weeks ago, we put on the table a big package on cybersecurity that has 3 main pillars. a pillar on reinforcing our technology industrial capacity. We have proposed an ambitious program for Europe to reinforce its technology and industrial capacity in cybersecurity. It has a pillar on our operational capacity, or coordinate better our actions in this field, and also a package that deals with the certification mechanisms and the unblocking, the diffusion of digital, unblocking the cybersecurity aspect related to that with certification schemes across Europe. Now, that's the cybersecurity package. We're currently working on a new initiative on artificial intelligence that is coming in the first quarter of 2018 that builds also on our assets. That will build also on our assets and see what is the European approach to artificial intelligence. How can we, building on what we need, what we could do in embodied intelligence, and putting intelligence in physical objects, how can we build on that to make sure that that businesses in Europe and our citizens benefit from the wider diffusion of artificial intelligence across all sectors, from web platforms to applications in automotive with connected autonomous driving, to new home appliances, etc. That's in the preparation and will come next. We also worked on data, as you know. We're now working on a new data package that will come in April, so also first or beginning of second quarter of 2018, that would look exactly at public data. We have a directive on public sector information, how can be used by the private sector to create new businesses. We'll be revising this together with industry and the member states to see how we can make that data also an asset, a bigger asset for new business development across Europe. That is coming also in April. And at the same time, we're looking at the areas of societal challenges where digital can make a big difference. And starting with health, there will be in the next 4 weeks, so before the end of the year, a package on the digital transformation of our healthcare. Also, we think it's a big area of business development, but also an area where digital can help us address some of our key societal challenges of sustainable healthcare in the future. There'll be a major package on this coming before the end of the year. We looked at the digital transformation of our administrations, a key area that we need to address as well. And there we have a commitment from the member states to engage together into a modernization of our public sector with digital transformation.
And we can see there's a lot coming up when it comes to the European Commission. I'm so sorry, that's all we have time for, but thank you so much for your perspective, sizing opportunities and fostering innovation at an age of digital single market. Thank you so much, Khalil.